Hi Taurus, welcome to your end of July 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here, and I think it's raining here, so I think that was a Taurus person who said that to me. Sounds about right. Daddy issues. Daddy and mommy issues. Okay, and wow. I've mentioned this before. I had this tarot book that had, you know, if there's one queen, that means that, I mean, if there's two queens, it means this, three queens. And here we have two kings and two queens. And, you know, it meant something different depending on how many there were in a reading. And I don't know where that book is. So I wish I could add that layer to this, but the two sets of parents kind of duking it out. So what do we have here? We have a King of Swords, King of Wands, Queen of Cups, and Queen of Swords. Now it's interesting because we're talking about elements that can be described as passionate and logical, or emotional and logical. The heart of the matter is the King of Swords. Sometimes this can actually be like a judge rendering a decision. Kings can be fathers, whether it's your father or the father of your child, who may or may not be acting like a father, and that's problematic. But if it's an inheritance issue, this could be like the judge rendering the decision because of this person. If this is an aspect of you, you may be very dispassionate right now, where you're just trying to get through something, make a decision, do what needs to be done, Taurus, because emotions aren't going to cut it right now. You need to just like have as much logic at your disposal as possible. So I look at the past position to kind of decide why this is happening. We have the King of Wands, and so whether that's a parent who has, like especially the father, but if the mother was more of the authority figure, passed on, and you have to make a decision about the estate, that could be one thing. King of Wands, though, is also like some sort of authority figure in an office place. It's a leadership, but I mean, this could be within yourself. So you may have had enough of the situation at work, and you have decided to become an entrepreneur, for instance. There's a lot of entrepreneurial energy with this card. Going out on your own, also having your own business, and calling your own shots. That's really what that could be about. And you have to, you know, it's an emotional decision whether or not to do this, because there are other factors. The higher message is the Queen of Cups, which is definitely like a psychic card, very steeped in the intuition side of things. And the interesting thing is that the King of Swords is quite different than that. Although I wouldn't necessarily say so 100%. Sometimes the King of Swords might be that sense of tuning into something that is not being pulled down by your emotions, and yet there is that intuitive hit to it. Because, you know, they always say people who are psychic have trouble reading for themselves, or, you know, kind of, you know, having that same ability that they have with other people. And I think a lot of times it is because of that emotional nature that kind of clouds things. So for sure, that might be something that can help your intuition. If we're talking about people, perhaps you're choosing between a fire sign and an air sign individual. And even, I would even include Earth, even though swords are connected to the mind. Sometimes Earth signs are very into logic, especially a sign like Virgo. But the air signs are Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. The fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The Queen of Cups connects with Cancer. And so if this is talking about when things began to change, it might have been the solar eclipse in Cancer. That's the most recent transit. Besides the sun, of course, and some of these inner planets, but I'm talking about like major event. That might have been something that was going on. And we even have as the challenge, and that was around June 21st, so as I record this, it was around a month ago. And we have the Chariot card in the challenge position. This is another card associated with Cancer. And the Chariot is a card of success and the sense of having more control in your life. And this could be a lack of control, things kind of going awry. And if the King of Wands individual is actually problematic, then they might be a narcissist. That's why I'm saying too, I made this point in another video, is that sometimes the queens and kings I see as narcissists, because there's a sense of entitlement. They think that they're above other people in terms of their status in life. And if this is like a boss, like, what do you call those people? You have the boss, but those other people, the suits, the higher-ups, I can't think of the official name, corporate. We used to call them corporate when we were working in retail. And there's always like a little bit of contempt in that, because they were always coming in and trying to tell us what to do, and we were actually in the trenches. And they just came around, the suits. Yeah, that's another name for them, the suits. The people that wear the suits while we're wearing flannel shirts. The thing is that your emotions might be really engaged here. And with the Chariot in the challenge position, something may feel like it's out of control in your life, and you're trying to desperately get back into control. But the King of Wands, you're flanked by these two court cards that represent the father and mother. So maybe these are family issues. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 40 years old and or 50 years old, and dealing with a parent that's trying to control any kind of probate issues that involve something. Oh yeah, I didn't say this. Maybe it's step-parent. So the second family of one or both of your parents. So we have the two mothers, two fathers. So it's like, bio mother, stepmother, bio father, stepfather, I don't know, or in-laws. And the thing is, I could see, Taurus, maybe you've started to come into your own. Maybe that's what the King of Wands is about. I wouldn't be surprised, where you're starting to feel more empowered within yourself and speak up, talk back, and you're getting a lot of blowback from it because they're used to you being a certain way. What's coming in, or the advice, the Six of Pentacles. This is an inheritance card as well. I found that out, along with the Ten of Pentacles, this card. And so doling out things fairly. But also, or that you deserve that kind of fairness. The other thing too about this is that if we look at it from the position of what you are deserving of, if you are somebody who gives to others, then you deserve the same in return. So don't allow anyone to tell you that you don't have a right to something. And this can even be within a hierarchy, within a family. Like, for instance, if there is some kind of an issue with being the first family and the second family getting the money and all this kind of thing, it's really up to you to decide whether or not you're going to fight for it or not. And some people decide not to for whatever reason. They just don't like they don't like legal matters, things like that. Also, within a relationship, perhaps this is you also within your primary relationship becoming more self-empowered, and you may even realize that the person that you're with has been withholding affection from you. And what happens a lot of times psychologically is that it makes a person feel like it's their fault, when in fact the person might be doing it almost as a manipulation. So don't just assume that if somebody is withholding from you that they're doing so because of you being the culprit. It might not be that at all. And that's one of the things that people, it's like the King of Wands to me is the ultimate form of self-empowerment. It means like I am responsible for myself. I'm not responsible for other people. They have to live their lives. They have their own path. Even people that I live under the same roof with. Yes, I mean, of course, if they're children, you are responsible for their well-being as when they are minors, and you want to raise them in a way that they will be, they will feel self-empowered when they are adults, or even when they're, kids. That they, you want to do that as much as possible, but ultimately, if you've done your part, everybody has to, who is of legal age, has to take responsibility for their own lives. And that's how I see with the Six of Pentacles, is like relationships are a two-way street. It doesn't mean, and we're not talking about with Pentacles actual money. There may be relationships where one person does bring home the bacon and one person, for me, it's faking bacon. And for the other person, they are taking care of other matters. And that works for them. It's going to be different for everyone. But the point is to have that within themselves, so that there's a sense of both parties feeling like they're getting their needs met. And also, one thing I want to say about inheritances, if you're the one that is in charge of the money, and there is some kind of like hullabaloo about it, if you do come from parents who are narcissists, and you are honest with yourself and you reflect back, you may notice that that your siblings were actually, what do you call it? They weren't treated as well. And in those particular cases, you can have a sense of compassion. Say, I really, I can understand why they feel the way that they feel, and I'm not going to, perpetuate this. I'm going to make it right. And so even if they've given you more money, you might decide to spread it evenly. That's just an example. It's not going to be across the board, obviously. And the outcome is the Queen of Swords, and this is the person. I really see this card more and more now as somebody who has been through an emotional ordeal, but they have to make an important decision. So whether or not you're both the King and Queen of Swords, I don't know. But that King of Swords could be a trigger for you, where you feel like the sense of, wow, I'm really seeing this person in a true light. They're not as sensitive as I thought they were. You know, an example would be you lose, and this is something that would have already happened, like you lost a father, and your partner was not very comforting. And, you know, sometimes it takes a long time, you know, when you're with somebody to really have a major event where you can see exactly how they react. And it can be very telling, you know, if something like that happens. But this, you know, if this is like literal family stuff, don't allow yourself to be somebody else's pawn. Don't be a pawn in their game, Taurus. Whoever it is, whether it's your partner's family or your step-parents or what have you. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.